Welcome to Can I Just Say for Common Room Radio. I'm Daphne Olive, and this is the second part of my 3-part series of Game of Thrones panels that I did at Con of Thrones. The first one in the series was the Queendom of Thrones. This one is the Sisterhood of Sansa and Arya Stark, and the one coming soon is the panel about Destiny and Happenstance. This one about Sansa and Arya I did with Lindsay Romaine, Laura Stone, and Christine Kippens. Their information is in the show notes. There is a bit of bleed from the room behind us where they had a really loud panel of some sort. I decided that the conversation was just too good to not give to you anyway, so I hope you enjoy. Thanks.
So I wanted to start by, we are going to introduce ourselves. My name is Daphne Olive. I'm a jewelry designer and a podcaster. I mostly podcast about Black sales for my network, Common Room Radio, but I also about general literature, film, and television. And I'm going to have each of us say if we're more of an Arya or more of a Sansa. And I'm going to say I'm more of a Sansa.
Hi, my name is Christine Kippens. My day job has absolutely nothing to do with Game of Thrones or the fandom, but I am here simply for my love of the show and the community. And I'm going to be really annoying and say that I have my Sansa and my Arya qualities. I can't pick one or the other. I like to think that,
you had warning.
I know. I had like a week to think about this, and I'm still going to say that I'm both because I'm political like Sansa. Well, I work in politics. I live in D.C. But at the same time, if somebody messes with me, I will cut you down like very quickly. So yeah, I love both of them.
Cool. My name's Lindsay Romaine. I'm a freelance writer. I write about culture. I cover Game of Thrones for Thrillist and write about it at various other places. I am 100% a Sansa girl. She's my favorite Game of Thrones character. It's not just because I'm a redhead, I promise, but I love her, and I'm so excited for this panel.
Hi, I'm Laura Stone. I do recaps at Hey Don't Judge Me, and I'm also a writer in my real life. And I am probably House Sansa with an Arya moon rising.
Oh, I like that. I like that very much.
Perfect.
I think I started off firmly entrenched in Arya, and then I had to unpack, which I know we're going to be talking about today. I had to unpack some of my own baggage about feminism and what's acceptable, and then once I started doing that, I'm just train straight to Sansaville. Dude, let's go.
Oh yeah, so pose the question to you guys. Show of hands. Who is on Team Sansa? Nice. All right, Team Arya. Stabby.
Right.
Yes.
From this phenomenon, it is not actually a competition. We're going to talk about them thematically.
Yay.
Competition with each other.
This is a feminist panel.
There's a different panel if you want to go for blood sport. So yeah, what I'm really interested in, kind of the overall idea of what we're looking at here, is this fascinating thing. I guess we're probably all more show. I mean, I've read the books and I've watched the show. The show's a little fresher in my mind. Also, we've gotten more of their story in the show, which was hopefully going to somewhat track. So what I'm fascinated with is that we have watched them grow up. We watch them go from bickering children to a really interesting combination right at the end of season 7 of a strategist and an enforcer, which seems like a pretty amazing combination. So yeah, the first thing that we wanted to talk about is that sister stories are often kind of about two halves of a whole. And what's interesting with these two is that we all focus a whole lot on how different they are, but I wanted everyone to kind of talk about what we see as their similarities.
Well, for me, I think they both know who they are and what they wanted to be when they grow up. I mean, They were both so sure of themselves. Sansa knew she wanted to be the lady of the house. She was working so diligently on her needlework, and even named her direwolf lady. Like, that was what she wanted to be, and she wanted to be the queen of the Seven Kingdoms. She wanted to be Joffrey's queen. She knew exactly what she wanted. Arya was the same. She was an unapologetic tomboy running around Winterfell, wearing helmets, firing her arrows at the target, even though she wasn't supposed to. And her parents indulged both of them, which I think was great, that they just allowed them to be exactly who they wanted them to be.
I was watching, I rewatched the episode when Nymeria is put down, and it's so awful. It's even
Lady was put down.
Lady, oh my gosh. Sorry.
Like, what?
I was like, what episode did you watch?
But when she puts Lady, when they have to put Lady down, and so what I think is this, and it reminded me of how fierce they both are. And if you go back and you watch that episode, Sansa has like a vein popping out when she's like, Lady is good, and she that came from down in her bowels, that no, right? And you kind of go, oh, she's not just a Disney princess. She's kind of trapped in what options that she has. But on the rewatch, I realized there's a grit to her that was because she was playing a part of pretty princess and all that sort of thing that wasn't allowed to come out, that we saw first off with Arya. But it's been there from the beginning with Sansa, too. And I like that about both of them, that when they're pushed, they've got, they're ready to fight when their back's up against the wall, both of them.
I was going to say something really similar, which is that they both just have that, Stark fire. Yes. I just feel like they're both Starks through and through. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, their most unifying thing. Yeah. That they both just really represent their house. It's not like people that feel like they don't fit. Jaime sometimes doesn't feel like a Lannister or whatever, but I think Sansa and Arya always feel like Starks to me.
I totally agree about that. I definitely fall on the side of seeing a lot less similarity to them. The biggest similarity is that they are Starks. The other thing for me that's just interesting them in the overall story is that they really are. Okay, sure, Bran was also a child, but his story really gets weird. And is that in the story, they are the two that are really representing something very similar for us, is this whole childhood to some variation of almost young adulthood or young adulthood. And then the conversation at the end of season 7 really is just, in my eyes, so important. That there is this, that is the Stark aspect of them, is they did both, as much as they differ from each other and seem so incredibly different, the idea that they are part of a pack and they need to be, and that they both really get that. Just, for me, that just brought their lines together in such a beautiful way and made me very excited about where they're going to go from here. Hopefully they'll survive a little bit, because usually when I get excited about two characters interacting with each other, that's usually the doom of those characters really quickly.
Fatal flaw.
The next thing I wanted to bring up was since they are our characters that we've seen from young childhood, who do we feel like are their true parents? They have their biological parents, obviously, but which of the adults for each of them were the people that most shaped them? So part of that question...
Both of them, yeah.
Right, part of that question... Sorry, I didn't say at the beginning, we are going to do question and answer at the end. I wanted each of us to talk about which parent, if you want to go down that road, but also which other adults helped shape the people that they became.
Well, Baelish is clearly the creepy uncle. Uncle Bad Touch. Don't act like that isn't in almost every family. He unfortunately, was at this crucial point in Sansa's development as transitioning from, a child to a woman. And however, she did take away some really key ways to manipulate and control. Thank you. You get it. And which we see at the end of of season 7, which wonderful moment. But I think the Hound, but I can't deny the influence that Baelish had on Sansa, for sure.
Yeah, also Cersei, I think, for Sansa is like the one that I think comes through the most. Like, I think she really learned a lot from her about how to be a woman in this world, for better or worse sometimes. But I see Cersei in her a lot, especially going, like, as it goes forward.
Oh, I think that's right.
Yeah.
And for Arya, definitely the Hound. I mean, when she comes back to Westeros after murdering all of the Freys, and she's at the end of the crossroads and she's interacting with Hot Pie, she is the Hound. Like, she is the Hound in that scene. Everything about her, the way she ate, the way she drank, the way she just, like, snatched the ale, like, she was the Hound. I'm surprised she wasn't eating chicken. But, like, but I think in terms of also the parents, she is Ned's daughter. Ned really shaped Arya in... I think that scene at the end of the season where she's talking to Sansa right before she really messes Sansa up, she's talking about when she was, practicing arrows after the boys had, Bran had, like, thrown his arrow and his bow and arrow on the ground, and she picked it up. She kept using this one arrow over and over to try to hit the target. And when she finally does, she hears the clapping, and it's her dad, applauding her, even though she shouldn't have been doing that. He indulged that. He was like, you know what? You go ahead. You go be you.
Yeah.
You're my daughter. I love you. You go play with your bow and arrow and keep working on that. And I think he shaped her from when she was so small, and she's still got a lot of that in her. Like, she is who she is now because that man raised her.
Yeah.
Okay, I have an interesting idea. Now let me pose this and see what you all think of it. I just kind of came up with it while I was listening to all of you. So, okay, let's say that Sansa in, like, pre King's Landing, Sansa was more Catelyn's daughter, right? Mm-hmm. And Arya was more Ned's daughter. And Catelyn represents, like, kind of almost, I mean, this is aside from the fact that I will have to admit I'm not a Catelyn Stark fan. So sorry, we can go into that in another thing. That's not the topic of this. But Catelyn does represent, whether you love her or not, she represents, kind of the society's constraints on women. Mm-hmm. Whereas Ned is the one who's indulging. Like, I don't think both parents are really indulging.
Does she, though?
Yes, she does.
Because a chief negotiator is a job that's usually given to women in Westeros?
No, I'm not saying that Catelyn herself is, but what she's teaching her daughters was. Like, teaching them about sewing, teaching them about proper behavior, teaching them... So she was
prepping them for King's Landing.
She was prepping them to be wives for someone, right?
Yeah,
that was her job. Mm-hmm. Whereas Ned's the one, if he's supporting Arya, then he's actually... he's supporting something that subverts the expectations of girls of their status, right? Mm-hmm. And then if you look at the parents that you all listed for each of them, it's really interesting because Arya has. I would also add Jaqen H'ghar or whatever, or the Faceless Man or whatever we're gonna call it. Mm-hmm. So Arya has, like, kind of these, like, surly later in life parents, but ones who are basically supporting her and protecting her, versus Sansa, who has two people who want to use her and manipulate her, and put her in not just extreme danger, but extreme danger of sexual violence.
Yeah.
So if you take those two ways of parenting, like those two girls, the girl who very much in the beginning falls in line with gender norms, and the other one who goes against gender norms, and the parental figures that the story has given each of them, I think that's a really interesting examination of the two sisters.
Yeah.
She said it all. No, but I think that actually goes into a little bit as to why I think some people might have a problem with Sansa because she uses such feminine power in order to keep her story going and in order to survive, whereas Arya does more of the quote-unquote boyish stuff, which makes her more lovable and relatable and all this other nonsense.
Yeah.
And I love Arya, but I think Sansa also gets a bad rap because she uses these feminine techniques in order to survive and thrive, and for some reason she gets castigated for that.
And unfortunately, that's the world.
Yeah.
That is, and it's a frustration of mine as a consumer of this media, that the world in which these women exist, you can be the genderless, non-threatening, because Arya is absolutely threatening, but my little teen murderer, she's just, but for her, you can be the kind of sexless Tilda Swinton of tomboy, and everyone loves that because it's such a challenge, and then we absolutely crap on the girl who wants to be a princess because that's not powerful.
Empowering.
That's not. Well, right. Cersei Lannister would like to tell you that it absolutely is powerful, and she's the one sitting on the throne currently. But and this is what I was meaning earlier about the things that I had to unpack because there's a kind of an insidious theme that goes that's been in media for a long time that you've got to be the princess, they have to be rescued, and they're helpless, and it's weak, and it's not anything to be admired. It's easy. Well, you just get to be pretty, and people do things for you. But that's not Sansa's story at all. She's not rescued. Painfully, we watch her not be rescued again and again. Or if she is rescued, it's out of the frying pan and into Baelish's ship to be, And to me, it's interesting to break down why people have just always I love Arya, but Sansa does not get that same level of.
Okay, well, granted, Sansa's and you have to understand, she has become my favorite character, but she's super annoying in the beginning.
but all teenagers.
But that makes it better because her arc. We're going to get to arcs, but Sansa's arc is insane because she does start out.
Yeah. I'm a mom of teen girls. Right. I'm just super protective of them and all of the crap they do.
No, but that's what's beautiful. What's beautiful about this story is that I think that Sansa's story in particular, which is just kind of piggybacking on what you just said, Sansa's story in particular doesn't feel to me like it's negating the idea of being feminine because the show shows us so many variations of what that means. A benefit of having many female characters, and that we get to see many variants of the same idea, and also we have some characters who use their femininity for real. I think Sansa learns to do that, but use it as a tool and a weapon. Mm-hmm. I don't think she has those tools in the beginning because I don't think that's what Catelyn taught her about how to use femininity. So in the beginning, she's a victim of the kind of
the mores of
gender,
the day.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And then she learns how to spin that around. And and I think also, honestly, not a parent because they're around the same age, but I would count Marjorie actually after everything I said about everyone who parented Sansa being against her and using her. Well, Marjorie was using her also, but Marjorie wasn't trying to use her in a way that was dangerous to her.
But I think Marjorie actually enjoyed their time.
But
she probably.
I think it's impossible. I love Marjorie. I think it is impossible to know what Marjorie enjoys or doesn't enjoy because she was so trained to play the game.
Yeah, I wanted to go back a little bit to kind of talk about Teen Sansa in defense of Teen Sansa.
Because I did say she is my favorite.
Oh no, I know. Trust me. But I kind of had the opposite journey that a lot of people do with these two characters, where most people are Arya right away and hate Sansa, and I was completely opposite. I've had to learn how to love Arya, and it's because of those gender things that we talk about, where being a tomboy in literature is so valued, and that those are everyone's favorite characters are the characters that display typically male traits, even if they're girls. Not always, I shouldn't say, but it comes up a lot, and I think that spunk is what people respond to. And that's why I liked Sansa, because she was a very real person. Like, that is how teen girls are. That is what you're taught to kind of value. Mm-hmm. And I think she was just a product of that. And I think when people get really, like, on one about her being annoying, it's like, who were you when you were 12 years old? Like, we do kind of fantasize about stuff, you know?
I think that's part of why it was hard for me.
Yeah. I think Sansa, a lot of women maybe are, like, kind of threatened by her because they're like, ooh, that's me. But with Arya, it was hard for me because, I just didn't respond to that the same way that a lot of people did. But I've come to love Arya. Once she started murdering people,
I support you on this journey.
Did you have more you wanted to say about this one? All right, so let's move on to trauma. Our girls have had a rough time of it. I kind of liked when they met in the crypt and they were like, your story's probably pretty long or something, and like they're both just agree that their roads were long and unpleasant. Yeah. So let's talk about how each of them has responded to trauma and what they've had to deal with. No, we don't like this.
No. It's just like where to start.
It's just
we can take it off the list.
You got to stretch before you get into something like that.
Well, I think you have two different common ways of dealing with trauma. You have, we've been talking a lot about Sansa, so I'll talk about Arya. In rewatching in preparation for this, watching her see her dad, being held and about to be executed, and she's 10, 11 in the book? She's
younger.
She's 9. She's 9 in the book.
Yeah.
9 years old. That's like 3rd or 4th grade. And that is when everything goes to hell. And then
for both of them. That's kind of the splitting point.
Without question. Yeah, and then they don't see each other anymore. And then Syrio. And then she kills someone. She kills the kid who's going to take her to the queen. And that all is like... And that is just in this, like, the span of an hour or two for this 9-year-old girl, and is immediately, some major PTSD is going on with this young child for years. And I think this might be controversial, but I think that the waif beat it out of her. The PTSD, I don't know, where she kind of let go of that, and
it's a really intense therapy.
Yeah, I don't recommend it. I don't think the board of psychiatrists recommend that, but I think she basically just kind of locked in and compartmentalized everything just to get through, and I don't think she dealt with it until she was the House of Black and White.
I think on the Sansa side of that is that she became very methodical about how she handled her trauma, whereas Arya was way more compulsive, or more just like spontaneous. Reactive. And Sansa was learning very slowly kind of how to do it. Also, the violence kind of put against them is very different kinds. With Sansa, it's sexual violence.
Very important part of it.
Yeah, and like when you said something about Sansa, like in The Pretty Princess, you think of them doing things to people. You don't think about they also do things you said they do things for people,
right?
But they also do things to them. When you're beautiful and when you're in these positions, you're kind of just things are constantly being done to you. And I think she learned how to kind of weaponize that eventually. But she
Maleficent was coming down with her black, black stairs, like, "Hello, Baelish, I am you."
But I agree. I think Arya did try to push down a lot of what she had dealt with because there was another thing happening the very next day. That trip up the King's Road was hell, and then she's in Harrenhal, and then she is in the room with Tywin Lannister, hearing the plot to kill her brother and her mother. Not that it was necessarily the Red Wedding, but they were plotting the end of this war.
Yeah, and she was there for the Red Wedding.
So, and then she's there for the Red Wedding, and she gets to Lysa's house, and Lysa's dead. She can't catch a break.
She did catch a laugh at that, though.
She did. And that was an amazing moment. and I think that's probably the one of the signs. Like she just keeps pushing it and pushing it and pushing it down. She's like, this shit is ridiculous. Like, are you kidding me? But then Sansa has to feel everything.
Yes, good point.
Now that I think about it, Arya and Sansa are like me and my best friend. Like my best friend, she does the therapy, like she does the work, she feels the feels, and I'm like, I'll think about that tomorrow. Whatever happens, you know? And then I'll have my Arya moment where I'm like, where it just it comes out because you've been repressing that trauma that you've experienced for so long.
Yeah. Well, also physically it's really different because Sansa's trapped. Like she can't leave.
Good point.
So she has to learn how to deal with her trauma in a contained space. Whereas Arya can she has the freedom to run away from it. Right. So that's really interesting.
And the face to run away.
Exactly.
Again, totally tied to their gender coding in relation to each other.
Yeah.
Brilliant. You're at that spot.
I'm going to always bring it back to gender.
Job.
I'm on the gender panel a little bit later.
Now, what's your podcast about again?
Yes, that's true. My newer podcast is in large part, not officially, but about looking at gender throughout the history of literature and film.
My wheelhouse.
Yep. I don't know if I have anything to add about the trauma beyond what you all said. I mean, I think it's very interesting, and I guess I'm going to use what I have to say to segue into the arcs. I mean, I think the two things are tied to each other, and I have already shown my cards that I think Sansa's arc is phenomenal, and there is always that character on a show that has an arc that I found truly satisfying and truly believable from start to end, even when at the same time it's usually the arc that if someone just told you the starting point and the end point, you would never believe it would happen. And so it's a magical thing when a television show actually brings you through that insane sounding arc and it all works. Yeah. And so for me, that is Sansa's. And I think the two things are tied to each other. I feel like Arya goes through a lot. Arya changes. And I'm not saying hers isn't believable, but I just feel like her starting point and her ending point, it's almost like, for me, she becomes a more embedded version of the person we met in the beginning. Like she digs into that person. And Sansa's the one that goes from one place and comes out in a completely, she's the character that I would say of all of the television show learns the most. And I love a character that learns. So she's of everyone, of all of our cast of characters, alive and dead, she feels to me like the one who actually transforms herself to the greatest extent.
This might be really controversial. I'm interested in what the audience thinks. I feel like Arya becomes who Robb Stark should have been. Okay. Half and half. That's about what I expected.
Wait, Arya or Sansa?
Arya.
I think Arya. That's hard for me because I feel like where Arya is right now is not a super healthy place.
I totally agree, but
and she's not a leader. She is the enforcer. I don't know if Arya could be a leader now.
That's fair.
Right.
Arya's a mercenary.
Exactly. Well, that's why I said.
Right.
I would say I think Sansa is
amazing together right now because you have Sansa, who's a strategist. She has learned from the best.
Yep, Baelish and Cersei.
Right. How to be a strategist, and Arya can now. I mean, exactly what you see when they kill Peter. Exactly that. That one of them doing the strategy and the other one's doing the.
But that's what makes them a great pair.
Had a big part to play because they were at each other's throats, and then when she finally got the facts, she got logical instead of.
Yeah, I think we can. Okay, let's switch really soon to question and let's have the panel talk about their arcs and then we'll get into it. But yeah, that's there's a lot that can be said about that episode in particular that I don't love, but I do love the fact that at the moment one of them is the strategist and the other is the enforcer.
Right.
And yes, a strategist uses good information.
Right.
Okay, go.
I'm done. I want to defend Arya a little bit.
No, please.
We like Arya.
I'm not disliking her. Just so you understand,
It's not
I just
that
don't
you're
think
disliking her. It's that
I worry for her.
You worry for her, and that's fine. But I think Arya has proven that she could take care of herself. Crowdsourcing again. How old was Arya when Ned was beheaded? 9. Okay, a 9-year-old.
Yeah, that's 3rd, 4th grade, and that's a baby.
3rd, 4th grade. Traveled up and down Westeros all by herself. Crossed the Narrow Sea all by herself. learn to become an assassin, blind, in the books can warg a little bit. Like, she's a flippin' badass from the age of 9 years old. Like, and it's not like this information just like got embedded in her head. Like, she was street smart, having grown up in a castle. Like, how does that even happen? I'm sorry, you know, like she had to grow from a relatively sheltered young lady to a street smart, wise assassin who could roll with the Hound and then roll by herself and like have the power to leave the Hound bleeding at the side of a mountain. She developed such a strength that I don't think we necessarily saw that she had in Winterfell. You know,
I think Syrio gave her that key to open that door to start.
Definitely,
I agree.
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, also
Next,
Tywin.
yeah.
Right, we do. That's actually a great conversation of talking about Tywin also as like a shaping figure in Arya's existence. That
He groomed her to be.
He did. That My Lady lesson didn't stick though, because
Yeah.
as soon as that girl said to Walder Frey, "My lord," I was like, "Oh, I know who that is."
Yeah.
But he's here, my lord. Okay, Arya, I see you.
That's amazing. What? Oh, with Jaqen?
Jaqen.
Yeah. He was.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. He was on our original list of parental people for her.
Yeah.
You're right about your Arya. I appreciate what you just said.
Yeah, I also agree. I also think like when she came back to Winterfell on the show, it seemed like she kind of came back to like being Arya, you know,
did.
like because she was in a dark place, and I was very worried that she was about to be this ruthless person.
Yeah.
But weirdly, now her and Sansa have kind of even scaled it. Like they're kind of like back to being.
Well, that's the power of of their home. That's proof that they had a home, that they grew up in this healthy environment. That when they both kind of come through. And you can see her face where she kind of, you know, she has this like, oh yeah, this, she has, and I just got chills remembering, so I think that's an excellent point that it kind of, their home and the love that is imbued in those walls from all the memories, kind of, it was sandpaper to the rough edges that they couldn't help but get form in their years away.
Unfortunately, the castle didn't have the same effect on Bran. But
His storyline's a different storyline.
Yeah,
But what an interesting idea that they, we know that they had two parents that loved them. We know that they grew up in a family structure that was, had its issues, but for the most part was like cohesive and supportive. And if you compare that with the Lannisters, who we never see any of the children at home, like their home is King's Landing. They are transplants, and that they grew up with a father who mostly parented through approving of them.
Yeah.
So what an interesting thing that the Starks really are the example that we have. I mean, we know about the Tyrells and Highgarden. We know that some of these other houses have families that had a rootedness. But what an interesting thing that we get, that the Starks are the one where we get to see that we get to see that rootedness and how that affects the children.
Yeah. Sorry, I got a tickle in my throat. I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right,
I'm not
well,
crying about
anyone,
Sansa, I promise.
like to ask us questions? Okay, waving hand person. Sure.
All this trickery and stuff pulled on women. Bran to me is off in Birdo land.
He's in the Root Network.
Right.
What tripped up Littlefinger was one thing. You know that whole no person, all this other stuff. Some people think that it's the way. Here's where he went too far. When he suggested to Sansa, she wants to be Lady Stark. Hell no! That is the one thing. That's it. Bam! She knows Arya. She might not know no one, but she knows her sister.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
She knows Arya.
That is kind of like when she was like, oh,
The
right.
writer's work, the character Peter Baelish, and he should respond to that. Okay, next question.
Arya don't want to be no damn Lady Stark.
Oh my goodness, there's so many people. I don't know. Can someone else call on people? I'm so bad at about.
How about Lyanna in the back?
Okay.
Okay,
And then-
in defense of Arya,
Yes.
I'm not anti-Sansa particularly, okay?
I'm not going to leg wrestle you in front of these kids.
There's
I
no
promise.
judgment.
Right. None of us are anti either of them. Let me just say, like, we all love all of them. We're just talking about thematics.
If I'm on a team, I'm on Team Arya.
Okay.
And I feel very strongly that all of her mentors, everybody she met for several seasons was male.
Yep.
She had this predilection, that's true. I'm not saying she's...
No.
It had nothing to do with gender, you know. But I think these are the people who she had no touch of femininity around her at all. She could not have developed in that direction. In the book, she cared very much about her mother's opinion of her. You can call that. But what I think has changed Arya, and the moment I stopped worrying about her, was Lady Crane. When she met Lady Crane, that changed everything. A woman was nice to her. She had a conversation. She respected her. She was sexual. She was feminine. And then, what is she supposed to do? She's supposed to kill her. And you know what? And this goes back to my education. She looked in that mirror. I don't know if you remember that. Lady Crane's mirror, when she had that poison in her hand, started to pour it, and she said, that's it.
And watch out for that one.
Yeah. She can't go leave and come back, and then she said, watch out.
Exactly.
Yeah. When she knocked it out of her hand. And after that, she's still been among men, but I think she has changed. Yeah, she had to get rid of the British. She had to do that after what they did to her family and her and the North. But after that, I feel very strongly she's becoming Arya again. Look at the way she interacted with Lannister soldiers. You know, people always said, oh, she's looking at their swords and she's going to kill them all. She could have probably. She didn't. She nearly broke into tears when they were talking about their fathers and their families and things like that.
And that goes into what we were talking about with home. I think being reminded of home and the memories of home, her mom, her sister, her brothers, everybody together, I think that pulled her off the cliff edge.
I think she's off the cliff edge.
Yeah.
I do too.
But I do want to say one more thing about Lady Crane, and I'll head it over to the rest of the room. And that is, she learned about acting. She talked about theater, about motivation. Well, Cersei wouldn't do this. What do you think that? Oh, you have very expressive eyes. And I think she's carrying two entities now, two personalities. She's Arya, and she's refining Arya. When she reads that needle, that starts. And when she has to act as this tough person who's going to do the thing, and I think this is what she was doing in Winterfell, she becomes temporarily no one.
Yeah.
Okay, Lyanna Stark in the back.
Going back to the whole, like, Ned kind of being, back in Arya, back in Sansa. I feel like we also have to look at the fact that Catelyn's from the South, and Ned is the North. You see that in their children, because Arya, despite everything, Arya, Needle, and Jon, and that anchor initiative for college, she always has it. Sansa wants to be a lady. She wants to be queen. She wants to be King's Landing. She wants to be Joffrey. Sansa has to figure out how to get out of that southern mindset and become a star. I think that's why I love her story.
I like that.
She goes from, because Catelyn, I mean, she's a like, I'm sorry, the beginning of the whole thing. She's a ton. Sansa. And
Said bitterly.
And you have to think about the women in the court. They were not little pretty princesses. The Mormonts, they bought Mirror.
The Cragaman, yeah.
So for Ned to see Arya, with a needle and everything, he's like, yeah, she's gonna win. But Sansa is the South, and she gets to the South, and she learns all of, she gets the parenting, I guess. And then she wants to go home, because when she gets to the Eyrie, what does she rebuild? She rebuilds Winterfell.
I know, I love that scene so much.
I do. That makes her little wolf
And you
embroidery so much more
You can see it in
powerful.
her costuming. Actually, would you stand up for a second?
Yeah, there she is. There she is.
That is the moment after the moment that she starts adopting the more strategic mindset is when she actually switches over to a very stark oriented outfit with its own needle. And Arya had her needle, and then Sansa got hers.
I think that's why there's a lot of Sansa love. I'm gonna admit, she's not my favorite Stark.
That's fair.
After this season happened and the Littlefinger thing happened, I was like, okay, I'm back with you, Sansa. It took me a long time, and I realized it's because she has to find her way home to accept that Stark Winterfell.
The North in her. Mm-hmm.
Yes, she doesn't embrace it. She wants to be a Southern lady.
Now, doesn't that, Lindsay and I were just saying, now doesn't that, when she makes her clothes and she makes a cloak for Jon, and their family is in it, doesn't that make it even more powerful?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
I love her now. I was Sansa takes off in a lot of ways.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great
I love
point.
that.
I was just going back to that. It took me a while to also warm up to Sansa, but you have to realize
Poor teen girl.
had the situation been reversed, or had Arya actually stayed King's Landing, I don't think she would have lasted long because she would have lashed out and Joffrey would have. She would not have survived. Mm-hmm. So it had to happen that way. Mm-hmm. And Sansa had to find her way in a cage, and Arya had to be free to find her way. But had the situation been reversed, we might have been having a different story right now.
Because they had different ways. They had different ways of coping.
Yeah.
And I think that was, I think that's why a lot of people had problems with Sansa, is that they saw her as being submissive. But submissive in this case was survival. So, yeah.
Oh no, prediction land. This is my weak point. I am not good at prediction.
I am so happy somebody brought up Lady Crane. Oh.
Right, the younger sibling.
I've had
that's my favorite younger sibling concept of them all. Thank you. That is my favorite.
I've had so many fantasies of like Arya's endgame that, like the idea of killing Jaime and taking his face and killing Cersei, and that's how the prophecy is fulfilled. But my ultimate favorite idea, because she's so stabby, and I feel like, at the end of the day, that's just not sustainable. I don't want her to turn into, like, Sir Ilan Payne, and that's, like, her personality. I would love for her to kind of pay off the statement the question that she posed to Lady Crane in finding what's west of Westeros. Her direwolf is Nymeria, who, was an explorer. And I would love for her to just kind of get in a boat and just sail off to the west and see what's out there.
Oh, I love that.
I am going to be like Debbie Downer here, but...
You're killing her, aren't you?
I think she's going to die. And it's not that I want her to.
I like those stories very much.
It's not that I want her to. I would love her to be a badass explorer with her wolf also. Isn't there something... My brain's kind of whatever today, but isn't there something in the book that like predicts her frozen with a
needle in her?
Yeah, and I was always like, because it's kind of, it goes back to that like kind of Lord of the Rings mentality. Like once the like thing has been established, like how do these people fit into this world? Right. I don't know how I see Arya fitting into a more stable situation at this point. I would like to think that it would be that she could do it, but I don't know. And then when it comes to Sansa, I don't know, man. I don't know if I think she's going to live or die. That one's a tough one.
I think Sansa's going to live, and I think people are going to be all on the boards bitching about it. But I don't care. But I think for Arya, there's a line in season 1 of the show where the witch who's going to heal Drogo and a death must pay for life. Mm-hmm. So, and that's repeated every season. Some version of that is repeated every single season. Arya took a life that she wasn't supposed to take. And I think that she's going to have to pay for that with her life. I don't want that to be the case, but I think that since the Starks kind of represent fairness in whether things aren't fair to them, but they are always trying to be fair and just and noble, and that's why they die. But I think that she's gonna. I think she's gonna have to pay. I think she's gonna have to pay, and I don't like it.
Wasn't that death paid for already, though? Are you talking about Maren Trant?
Well, that, but also she stole a face. She stole faces, and she's not supposed to.
But she was punished for that, though.
I don't know if that's the full punishment. That's what it's. I feel like that's something that the story could do, but I don't know. That's
okay. Michal, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah. So I'm wearing my skin has turned from ivory to porcelain type steel t-shirt, so my Sansa-ness is showing. Something that I was going to say, but one question. Something that I was a little disappointed in the show versus the books is that, you know, in the books, the Hound is much more of an impact even on Sansa than he is on Arya.
Yeah.
And Arya and he have a great travel relationship. It's awesome, and he impacts her. But for Sansa, like, she thinks about him all the time. So I was wondering, like, how that fit in. It's not as prominent in the show, maybe because Sophie was so young at the time. I don't know how that fit into your idea of the parent roles.
No, that's very interesting. So basically, like, they almost have two fathers, and one of them is Ned Stark, and one of them is Sandor Clegane. That's pretty kind of...
That's kind of weird,
covering
though.
all the bases, let's say.
yeah.
Sandor also kind of has the hots for her, though, so that's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, it's a little weird. He has the hots for Sansa.
Yeah. Isn't that pretty clear?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of it's complicated. She imagines kissing him.
Okay, but we did also name Peter Baelish. and you know, and maybe as creepy as that is, like maybe that is also related to our more gender coded girl,
right?
To have all sorts of
he's saying
scary. Yes, you have had your hand up from the beginning, please. Oh, sweetie, can you stand up?
Hear you.
We are hearing the room behind us really, really loud, so it's hard for us to hear you all.
I was wondering if the reason why so many people hate Sansa was her role in Ned Stark's death.
Yes.
Was her might have an answer here.
That's why she ended up learning so much. Was because she saw her role, she saw how she was manipulated, but she was a kid.
She was a kid.
You know, and she wanted so much that blinded her to anything else, and she really did not think they were going to kill her.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
She had no idea.
Also,
Cersei didn't know that Ned was going to die.
Also, here's the thing that I always say when people bring that up. Joffrey killed him, not Sansa.
Thank you.
And it was not trying to peg the blame on, like, her in this really complicated, messy situation.
And even Cersei didn't kill him.
Exactly.
Cersei had no clue.
Exactly.
Tywin Lannister was mad that Ned was killed because there when his poker chip.
Yeah, it was
Which
Joffrey.
is strange because he kept asking Jaime why is Ned still alive.
Yeah. To Joffrey, I think that's something that probably everyone can agree with.
Well, I was
Yes.
I was just wondering where you're thinking about the future, because I think that's what's going to be so interesting, that the partnership that could possibly come out of this. Where do you think it's going?
Again, me saying that I love it, I'm so sorry to say that. Whenever I do say that about two characters, it generally means that one of them will die like an episode or two after.
Can we get the woman in the back with the purple hair?
She's been really
yeah, she's been
So I just have this word. I'm a psychology person. So I had like a mini therapy session with myself because I hate Sansa.
It's okay.
I had this like to build on you. I think our hate comes from, as women, we are looking for sex. And so when we get raped or sexually assaulted or put in a position where we have to be nice, to go along, to get along, to survive.
She's the physical embodiment of everything that we hate, that
About
we are
ourselves.
forced to do as women.
Yeah.
Yep.
Freaking hate that about ourselves. We want to be Arya.
Yeah. That was the baggage I had to unpack. Yeah. Right.
So I think that's the core of my hate for her. But we
Mm-hmm.
have Tywin Lannister killed there, but it's really because we're
Right.
ourselves.
No,
And
no,
you're
I
exactly
think,
right.
Yeah, Absolutely. Sansa triggers everything that women watch and say, this is not what I want to be. But she's also pointing out to us, like, a lot about the reality in which we live.
Right.
Okay.
We have one question.
Just a quick little comment. I'm surprised you guys didn't bring it up. John's influence on Arya growing up, because he also was very encouraging of her wolf's blood, if you will.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. No, absolutely.
I think that was the nice Lyanna connection, because Arya is supposed to be like a little mini Lyanna.
Yeah.
She looks just like her, acts just like her, and then of course we know Jon is Lyanna's son. So it was. I think in the books too, there's that connection exists to kind of give you the hint that Jon is.
That is a really nice.
Yeah.
That's a really nice circle of Starks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we're out of time.
Time holds. We're all gonna live.
Hopefully, you're right.
I think you might be watching the wrong show.
We're all done.
Wrap it up.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for
you. Thank you
so much, everyone.
Can I Just Say podcast is a Common Room Radio production. For more information and our other shows, visit commonroomradio.com. To show your support, pledges of as little as $1 a month can make a big difference. Visit patreon.com/commonroomradio to pledge support and access bonus features that are just for patrons. And join the conversation by using the hashtag #CanIJustSay and follow us on Twitter @JustSayPodcast. We request that you keep your tweets respectful and positive, and you can always email us at podcast@commonroomradio.com. Thanks for listening.